So in the third hour of the show and last segment of the show, looking at the topic of discussion. Now, this particular one is looking at URBRA at 10, celebrating 10 years. URBRA, that is the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority. And joining me this morning is Lydia Mirembe, Manager Corporate and Public Affairs from URBRA. Good morning, Lydia. All right. Now, if you out there would want to at least, first of all, get a preamble to understand what is URBRA.
Thank you. Good morning, dear viewers. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'll tell you about URBRA. URBRA, the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority, is a regulator of the retirement benefits sector, or more popularly known as the pensions sector. So URBRA basically provides guidance, provides standards, provides all the regulatory context to enable all the actors, all the players, all the service providers in this sector, to be well aligned and to perform their duties in accordance with the regulations and the laws of this country. So the main function of URBRA is to ensure that the sector is managed and it operates efficiently within the ambits of the law. So we're a regulator.
Okay.
Just to note, we are not a retirement benefits scheme. We just oversee the sector. I say this ahead of time because a lot of times people will ask, are you the ones keeping our savings?
And that is where I would want to know, what is the difference between you and NSSF?
Okay, great. NSSF, the National Social Security Fund, is a savings scheme.
Okay.
Workers, especially those in the formal sector, save for retirement through the National Social Security Fund, required by an act of Parliament, the NSSF Act, which was only amended last year. So all workers in the formal sector and now open also to the informal or voluntary saving, they save 15% of their salaries, their monthly earnings with NSSF. So that is a purely saving scheme. And when they receive your funds, every month they invest, and every year they declare how much interest you have earned from those investments. So that is NSSF. It is a saving scheme. URBRA is a regulator. It oversees all saving schemes, including NSSF and 64 others. So in total, we have 64 saving schemes. We have service providers who include custodians or the banks where we keep our monies. We have fund managers, we have administrators. We are the ones that oversee how those entities perform their duties.
Okay.
Yes.
And looking back at the last 10 years, how has URBRA performed? How has been the sector so far?
Okay. URBRA was enacted, was operationalized or came into existence when the URBRA Act was enacted in 2011. We are established by an act of Parliament, the URBRA Act. Now, upon the passing of the URBRA Act in 2011, a regulator was created. You may recall that before, the sector was unregulated, the sector was unsupervised. There were about just 3 known retirement benefit schemes. That was NSSF, the Public Service and Parliamentary Pension Scheme. And these were, out there operating, but without regulation. Also, many Ugandans will relate with the experiences at that time whereby, the sector was saddled with corruption, embezzlement, delayed payments of benefits. Sometimes even people would die without getting their benefits. I think the stories of pensioners, stories of members of different schemes at that time were many who would come day in, day out, and sometimes never get what is due to them. So the enactment of the URBRA Act and the establishment of a regulator was really supposed to address those challenges. When we look back at the last 10 years, as you asked, we have so much to be proud of. Ugandans will testify that now the pensions or the retirement benefits sector is much more organized. Just do a quick survey out there and ask members how long it takes them to get their retirement benefits when they are due, when they come of age. It takes just a few days as long as your documentation is in order. There's been great improvements. All these scandals have really been reduced significantly. With the oversight of a regulator, now we have the capacity. That supervision capacity ensures that all who are responsible for handling the savings, retirement savings of Ugandans, are complying with the laws, the regulations, and are doing just the right thing. Okay. Yeah. So now we have seen a growth in the sector. The sector has grown exponentially over the years. When we took the reins of supervision 10 years ago, for example, the sector was worth less than 4 trillion. Today, as we talk, the sector is worth 20 trillion. That is growth. And it's really coming from the benefits of having a regulated environment. We had less than 3, we had just about 3, as I told you, benefit schemes, but now we have 65. So it's really growing. It's a growing sector, and the past 10 years have really brought us to where we are, mostly because of that keen supervision by a regulator that was established by an act of parliament. Yeah.
Okay. And who belongs to URBRA, for example? If you are the regulators. Now, for instance, people would be asking if an employee is supposed to remit, or an employer is supposed to remit NSSF for the employees, then how about URBRA?
Okay. Yeah. So every employee earns a salary at the end of the month. Every employer is supposed to ensure that their employees have a saving for retirement. When we are still young and youthful, we think we might be young forever, so we don't think about these realities. But anyone who's hoping to live long enough to be 60 must prepare for that age, when you'll be less productive, when you'll be less youthful, when you'll have less energy, or probably be out of employment, because at a certain age you're beyond employable. Now, preparing for that time means starting to save now. As soon as you start earning, you must start saving for retirement, because a time will come when you retire. That period of saving for retirement is the space where we're playing. We as URBRA and the other saving schemes. So we as URBRA ensure, we through our oversight and supervision role, we make sure that all the employers deposit or remit those funds. 10% from the employer, 5% from the employee, and it goes into National Social Security Fund. If an employer defaults, there are processes that they are taken through to ensure that they pay back. So URBRA does the oversight, the supervision, yeah, making sure that everybody complies, while the schemes now take on the role of collecting, administering, making sure that all records are in order, and investing, because we don't want money to just sit in an account. As soon as the money comes into the account of the scheme, it has to go into investment so that it produces interest for the member, and so that the member can have the best possible outcome when they finally retire. If you have been following developments in the sector, you may have observed that nowadays all schemes are declaring anything above 10% interest per year, which means that the environment is vibrant. These actors are putting a lot of effort in ensuring that they invest in the best way possible so that their members get the best gain. But now I have mostly talked about the formal employment, whereby it's mandatory for the employer to make a saving in NSSF. But we also have voluntary schemes. It is totally within the regulations for an employer to establish a scheme for their staff. For example, here at Smart 24 TV, apart from the contributions, the mandatory contributions that go into NSSF, we encourage the employer to create a voluntary savings scheme for their staff, because what goes into NSSF is good, but it's not enough. It's only 15% of your salary, monthly salary. But remember, research has proven to us that when you go into retirement, what you need for you to maintain a lifestyle similar to what you had prior to retirement is 70%, a minimum of 70% of your earnings while you are still in employment. So if you're saving 15%, it means you have a gap. That gap can be filled through voluntary saving. You can join. There are so many schemes out there. We have umbrella schemes. We have voluntary schemes open to the public. We also have employer or occupational schemes. You can save some more. You can go beyond the 15% that goes into NSSF. So that is the space where URBRA supervises and regulates.
All right.
Yeah.
And with that, after the break, we're going to discuss the contributions of URBRA to the sector, to the economy today, and also get to understand why it is very difficult for most of the workforce to save for retirement. A very big discussion there, and the future. Where does URBRA see itself after this 10-year celebration? Stick around. This is Smart Means Business.